Hello everyone, my name is John Owsley and this is my final presentation for POS 435, Women in Politics. The three possible options for this presentation, I chose option 1, so I will be looking at the gender gap and gender relation with political ambition. Political ambition is what drives individuals to seek candidacy. So if women are not seeking candidacy, there's a real issue. My concern is not necessarily women's lack in political ambition. My concern is what drives women's lack in political ambition. There are various theories which examine the relationship between gender and political ambition. However, I've decided to highlight three compelling barriers which I consider to be the most damaging. The first barrier which I analyzed in my project was introduced by Lawless and Fox as a concept known as gendered psyche, which the authors define to be a deeply embedded imprint that propels men into politics but relegates women to the electoral arena's periphery. Now, gendered psyche is particularly damaging to women because it essentially defines who they are within themselves. It creates norms for gender-based roles and expectations that are subject to the masculinized ethos within organization. Gendered psyche becomes something that's deeply ingrained within society. It doesn't go away. It affects children from a very young age, throughout their professional lives. It is truly a mix between internal and external pressures. Now, gendered psyche is the specific reason why women have lower levels of political ambition than men. But what drives those lower levels of political ambition can be directly attributed to the masculinized ethos of political institutions, which essentially creates a culture of masculinity. The organs of governance were designed by men, operated by men, and continue to be controlled by men, as Jennifer Lawless stated. When the culture of American political institutions is depicted through a concept like masculinized ethos, it's not good because it further asserts traditional gender roles, and by tagging masculinity onto the positions within politics or political institutions themselves, you assert that male participation is more important. You assert that male protection through policy is more important. You create many inequalities. Furthermore, this concept of masculinized ethos insinuates the desirability of masculine traits when assessing the aptitude of political representatives. Conversely, feministic traits will carry a negative stigma, and candidates who possess these traits will be viewed as weak. The last barrier which I examined for this assignment is a concept known as gatekeeping. Now, gatekeeping is an especially concerning concept, and that's because you can have a woman who has high levels of political ambition, high electability, and you may never see her on the ballot. You may never know who she is. And why is that? It's because of this masculinized ethos of political institutions. Let's see if I can provide an example. So, in the Democratic primary right now, Hillary Clinton is by far the front runner. If the Democratic committee decided to choose Bernie Sanders as the front runner, that would be an example of gatekeeping. Gatekeeping is just another mechanism for political elites to assert their will. All three of the barriers which I illustrated not only further dichotomize the gender gap, but diminish the integrity of a representative democracy. So at this point, let's look at solutions. How do we regress? Unfortunately, there's no magic solution in correcting this issue. There's no overnight quick fix. What it's going to take is a progressive plan of action to create systemic change, which would obviously begin with changing the way that gender roles are perceived, especially by women themselves. I'll emphasize that point again. The evolution of self-perception is paramount if you ever expect social transformation to occur. How do women change self-perception and ultimately unshackle themselves from the constraints of this gendered psyche concept? I would suggest 3 E's in my solution. Those 3 stand for empowerment, education, and environment. Females must first be empowered to embrace feministic traits which have traditionally carried a negative stigma. People as a whole need to be educated on the importance of inclusion within a representative democracy. Otherwise, policy that's crafted is not descriptive of everyone's interest. Last, environment. You look at a problem and you have to look at what caused the problem and what will prevent the problem from happening again. That would be my solution to get rid of the gender gap and increase levels of political ambition for women.